What page is the Behalf for? I don't know. It's right with Shema, that's all I know. Okay. Yeah, it's all the rabbi questions getting this one. Yeah, it's on 154. And finally, a minute email. Yeah. I spoke to Senator Murkowski this week. Oh, good. Wow. Yeah. About the Equality Act. Yeah. Well, good deal.
About the what?
The Equality Act.
Oh, okay.
Guess it's going to be in the it got passed in the House a little while ago. It's going to be in the Senate in the next couple of months. So we're all now lobbying our representatives. Yeah, I did do it. No, what? Just that was an example. What should I queue up somewhere, or just because you're going to do the Shema? Yeah, let's do the Shema, and then then come to the help. Okay, sounds good. Down for half a moment. Okay, guys, you ready to get started? Yes. So Brenda, you want to do candles? Psst, Brenda. Okay, give me a moment. Do you guys see me burn myself like crazy last week? It was like the whole thing was filmed. Still a scar. The match broke right as and so then it flung backwards, and as it was like flaring up, that's when it hit my finger. Wow. Ugh. That's some Sodom and Gomorrah energy here. I feel like God was burning me. It was that kind of experience. I was like, ooh, don't get too close to God. Okay, you guys want to come over? You guys can come by if you want to. Anyway, Shabbat Shalom and welcome. This is our Erev Shabbat service. I hope everyone's staying warm out there. It is so cold. It's like, what, a high of like 4 today? And I think I clocked like -8 at my house when I went to work this morning. Mm-hmm. What about you guys? You know? Yeah, it was like -10. Yeah. When's this gonna let up? Anyone know? March or April. Right, Mark. Thanks. It's just like, I guess my issue is that like I feel like before it snowed, we weren't skiing. I wasn't skiing, right? Now it snows, it's too cold to ski. Either way, I'm not skiing, and we're in Alaska winter. That's the most frustrating part for me. Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to ski in 100. I mean, I'm not going to ski in -10 to +4 temperatures. I guess I'm a fair weather skier in that regard. Okay, so we're going to move over into our Shabbat service, and we're going to come over here and one page 20, right? And light the candles for us. Come on up here. I'm actually going to put my mask on while you're up here. Try to keep our mask policy going. You guys are doing great. Thank you. Okay, and we continue now on page, is it like 188?
128.
128. 128. For Hine Matov, I imagine.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Hine Matov.
Hine
Matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la 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 la. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la 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 la. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la 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 la. Hine matov, hine matov. Ya la 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 la. All right, we're going to move on now to Lachad Odi, and we're doing paragraphs 1, 2, 5, and 9, correct? Yeah. Okay, and then when we reach paragraph 9, we're all going to stand up and greet the Shabbat bride coming in from the entrance. And we're on page 138. Here we go. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, ishmi'anu elam yuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet ve'tila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'necha, ki hi mekor habracha. Merosh migedem nesuchas u'masechah tequila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, hitoreri, ki va'orech u'mi'ori. Uri, uri, shir daberi, kevod Adonai Adonai nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Please rise. Boi v'shalom, aderet malam, gam l'simcha u'tola. Tov emuneh, am segula, boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, You may be seated. Ooh, felt the ruach on that one. Actually, before you guys sit down, Shalom Aleichem on 142. You want to do that one? Okay. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bolechem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem L'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, we move down to the Chasikash on 144. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah be'alma divrach yotev yamlik malchutei b'chayechon uvyomechon ubcharei l'chol beit Yisrael bagala uvizman kariv v'imaru amen. Yehesh me Rabba mevarak le'alam ulam me'almayam yitbarach v'yishpa'ach v'yipar v'yipromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalam shemei kedusha b'richu Le'elam in kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imaru amen. And move on to the Baruch Hu on page 146. Oh, and please rise.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamevorach. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Le'olam va'ed.
And we move on to Ma'ariv Aravim on page 148, and you may be seated.
Umavir yom, umavir yom, umavir yom, uvein laila. Umavdil ben yom uvein laila. Adonai tzavot shemo. El Chai Kayayam, Tamid Yinoch, Aleinu Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim, Umavir Yom. ben yom uben laila. Adonai tzvaot Shema, El Chai v'Chayam, Tamid Yimloch, Aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Hamari v'Arabim. Yada la la, 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 yada la la. Yada la la, yada la la, yada la la, yada la la, yada la la.
And we now move to the English on the bottom of page 151, which I ask we all read together. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works in the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Now move to the Shema on page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malachuto Leolam Vaen. I'm going to invite Roy up here to recite the Via Hafta for us.
On page 154. V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'kol levacha uv'kol nashvecha uv'kol meodecha v'hayu hadivarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavcha hayom halavavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha bevetecha uv'leftecha v'derech uv'shokbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beineinecha uktavtam al muzazot beitecha uvisharecha v'man tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem koroshim Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Heyot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem Adonai Elohechem Emes.
Thank you, Roy. We're now going to move over to Micha Mocha, which you can find on page 158 of your prayer book.
Ya la 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 ya 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 la 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 mi kamocha palim Adonai mi kamocha gedar bakodesh norati lo sefer norati lo sefer ya la 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 ya la 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 ya la 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 ya 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 la 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 la.
We move to Vishamru, top of page 162.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ושמרו בני ישראל Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We now move to the Amidah, which you can find on page 164 of your prayer books. When you arrive there, I invite you to stand with us. Adonai sefatai titach ufi agitahi latecha. Adonai sefatai titach ufi agitahi latecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imoteinu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol v'Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei hakol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevit ulam mipnei b'neihem, l'mad shemo b'yahava. Melech ozer u'moshiach magen, baruch atah Adonai, magen Abraham, Ezra, Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, v'chayei hakol atah Rab le'oshia. Mashiach haruach u'moriv hagashem. Mechalkel chayim bechesed. Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim berofei cholim. U'matir asurim. U'mekayem emunato lishenei afar. Micha mocha ba'geburot u'mido melach. Melech memit u'mechayeh u'matzvir Yeshua. V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai v'chayeh hakol. We will now continue silently until Oseh Shalom on page 180. You may be seated whenever you like.
Oh, say shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Vimru, amen. Oh, say shalom bimromav. Hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Vimru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Okay, I'm going to offer some words of Torah now. So, two men are traveling from opposite directions to meet each other. One man has his entire livelihood behind him: his cattle, his sheep, his 2 wives, and his 12 children. The other man has 400 warriors behind him. If you haven't guessed, I'm talking about Jacob and Esau. The last time Jacob saw his brother Esau, Jacob had stolen his brother's blessing from Isaac, their father. This was, of course, after Jacob had also stolen his birthright. Jacob received a really good blessing from his father. Apparently, the way that blessings work in the Torah is that after they're given, they are spent, much like an out-of-charge battery. And unfortunately, what was left over for Esau was a blessing that stated that he would be a warrior and a wild ass of a man, which certainly wasn't great as far as blessings go. In his anger, Esau said he would kill Jacob, and Jacob had to flee for his life. So, okay, back to this week's Torah portion. So, they're now about to meet. Jacob fully understands the possible implications of this meeting. In order to ameliorate the situation, he sends 3 different messengers with gifts ahead of him to meet Esau and hopefully butter him up in advance of their meeting. But in the middle of this story, something peculiar happens. The Torah provides us a story within a story. The night before Jacob meets Esau, he finds himself alone, most likely taking a walk to calm his nerves. He happens upon a stranger. So he and the stranger decide to wrestle, which seems to make sense for the narrator, so I'm not going to question how odd this choice is. But anyways, when the stranger sees that the stranger cannot overcome Jacob, he strikes Jacob in the thigh, maiming him and giving him a limp. Jacob still continues to wrestle with the stranger, and when morning is about to come, the stranger asks to stop. Jacob agrees only if the stranger would give him a blessing. So the stranger says that since Jacob has striven against both gods and people, that he will be given a new name, Israel, which can be translated as struggle. The stranger disappears, and Jacob names the location Panliel, which means the face of God. And my question this evening is, why is this story, or what is this story doing here? Why would the Torah place the seemingly non-sequitur story in the middle of our bigger story of Jacob about to meet Esau? There are lots of commentators that's weighed in on this one. Most commentators, both ancient and modern, believe that the stranger was in fact an angel. And this does make some sense. For example, how did the stranger know Jacob's name? And furthermore, there is a precedent for biblical characters meeting strangers who end up being angels. However, a more nuanced thought from some commentators is that the stranger isn't actually an angel, but in fact Adonai. Adonai knows that if Jacob were to be able to see the face of God during daylight, Jacob would perish. So Adonai asks to stop, to protect Jacob, but Jacob refuses until he gets his blessing, essentially blackmailing with his own life without realizing it. This parallels Jacob's struggle with Esau and shows Jacob that since Jacob was willing to risk his life for God, he'd be willing to risk his life to meet Esau. Another suggestion is that God wrestled Jacob until morning on purpose. Jacob had become quite the trickster in his life, relying on subterfuge and ruses to get what he wants. Perhaps God is showing Jacob that he can survive direct confrontation if need be. Thus, Jacob's name change represents Jacob being reborn as a person who relies on the strength of his character rather than his trickery. And some commentators believe that Jacob is actually dreaming the whole time. And this is kind of perfect in terms of a literary device known as an inclusion. When Jacob flees Canaan, he falls asleep and dreams about angels going up and down a ladder. If he is dreaming about wrestling an angel on his way back into the land of Canaan, then both dreams would act as bookends to Jacob's life, sojourning away and toward Canaan. Each dream acting as sort of divine customs checkpoint, if you will. And finally, there are some commentators that believe Jacob is literally wrestling Esau. Esau wants to see what Jacob is made of and decides to wrestle him incognito. Sort of like a Mexican lucha libre who wears a mask. They wrestle and Esau asks to stop so Jacob won't recognize him during the daylight. The reason why Jacob names this place Paniel, or face of God, is because Jacob has to face God and Esau recognized how much of a struggle that can be, which is why Esau renames Jacob Israel. So my guess is that this story within a story is showing how Jacob is preparing for a stressful and nerve-wracking encounter with his brother. Jacob is wandering at night, maybe asking for a sign from God. Instead of Adonai giving him a sign like a rainbow or a goat to sacrifice or a pillar of fire, Adonai forces Jacob to understand that what he can accomplish if he struggles. Jacob chose to avoid confrontation, and Adonai offered the perfect sign by showing him the value of confrontation. In this case, he will get to heal his relationship with his brother. And it works. When Jacob and Esau meet that morning, Jacob bows 7 times to Esau, and Esau weeps and kisses Jacob, and they both make up. So in one way, the question of the wrestling match is answered. But the question remains, why was the person who Jacob wrestled a stranger? Thank you. We're now going to continue with the Misha Berach, which you can find on page 371 of your prayer books. And before we recite the Misha Berach, I would like to list these names of our community members who are in need of healing. Tina Mink, Chris Converse, Jennifer Eskridge, Ian Clift, David Tobias, Katie Flagel, Lindsay Raber, Micah Purdy, Cheryl Lambriani, Laura Allen, Susan Super, Mary Jo Robinson, Melba Cook, Emmy Webb, Stephen Lamp, Russell Crass, Bill Ross, Alan Friedman, Russ Nog, Ross Rumack, Norma Haas, Ray Ellis, Judy Cantor, Kayla Riven, Diane Kaplan, Craig Paulus, and Philip Kaufman. If there's someone who you are thinking of, please say their names out loud or in your hearts. We move to 371. Sheberak avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu, mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Move now to the Elenin, which you can find on page 587. When you arrive there, I invite you to rise with me. Now turn to the top of page 591. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Love each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech. May we never lift up our hand, but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai le'melech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yihye Adonai echad u'shemo We now turn to the mourner's cosh, which you can find on page 598 of your prayer books. In our own community, we're thinking about these yard sites this week. Rose Favuza, Martha Gibbs, Louis Kerman, and Ray Spiro. If there's anyone who you are thinking of, please feel free to say their names out loud or in your hearts. Zikunom livracha, may the memory be for a blessing. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, b'yalma divrach chayotev yamlik malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyamechon uvchayerechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mebarak le'olam ulamei almaya, yishbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitbramam v'yitnaseh. V'yit hadar v'yit dalei v'yit talal shemei kudusha barichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata da'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shla rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleni v'yakol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleni v'yakol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen. You may be seated. Okay, announcement. So, unfortunately, our month of B'nai Mitzvot are over, which is kind of sad. We had a blast. It was a celebratory month, very festive. So we're kind of back to our normal Saturday schedule, where we'll have our tech study at 10:30. But we also have our Judaism 101 class, which starts at 9. And tomorrow's topic will be about God. It's kind of a heavy one, so hopefully we'll get through it in an hour and a half, and we don't need any more time than that. We'll see. So 9 for Jesus 101, 10:30 for tech study, and then 12:30 Congregation of Beth Shalom volunteers with the Greater Friends Baptist Church to help pass out food for the mobile food bank at the Fairview Rec Center at 12:30. So if you want to help pass out food, you can join us at 12:30 at the Fairview Rec Center. I know it's cold, but people are still hungry. So I encourage you to come and join us for that. What else is going on? Anyone else? Am I missing something? Wednesday morning menu. Yes, thank you. Wednesday morning minyan, every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Please join us for a little morning minyan. We always have a really good experience. And then, I don't know, I think that's it for next week. I hope you all have a good Thanksgiving as well. That's very exciting. I think that's it. Unless you want to say any other thoughts about, I think we got it. All right, what are we doing for our closing melody?
Maya Fe'ayom.
Oh, yeah. Which page?
128.
128, Maya Fe'ayom.
Maya
Fe'ayom, Shabbat Shalom, Maya Fe'ayom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. I hope you all have a restful Shabbat, and we'll see you here next time. Shabbat Shalom.